Hey everybody, how's it going? I am Danconia and welcome to the Overwatch League Roundup. So this is the first of many Overwatch Roundup videos where I take a look at what has happened in the week of the Overwatch League and discuss what's going to happen in the next week's fixtures and what has happened in the previous week's fixtures. But we haven't had the Overwatch League yet. So this is an introduction video to the Overwatch League. How the stages work, how the league works, what teams are in it, and all that good stuff. But first, let's look at the teams. So, the Overwatch League is comprised of 12 teams. These are San Francisco Shock, Boston Uprising, Florida Mayhem, Houston Outlaws, Philadelphia Fusion, London Spitfire, Seoul Dynasty, Dallas Fuel, LA Valiant, New York Excelsior, Shanghai Dragons, and the LA Gladiators. They should be on the screen now. These teams will compete in a league that will span until the end of July for various prize money. All these teams have been bought into the league for about £20 million. Dollars. I'm not sure which one it is. Don't quote me on that. So, these teams have many well-known professional Overwatch League players now, but many professional Overwatch players that have been heard of through the Overwatch team for a long time. I'm talking about Dallas Fuel, XQC, Seagull. Look at London Spitfire. You've got C9 Kongdu and GC Busan amalgamated together in one team. So, what sort of teams can we expect on top of the Overwatch League in its first season? Now, this is purely speculation, right? This is partly my opinion and partly my speculation based on looking at the teams and watching the pre-season. Obviously, these teams are unknown entities. We're going to the first season of Overwatch League, and the first few games will tell you a lot about how the league will span out. There are 4 teams that are seen as the top 4 teams in the league at the moment. These are the Seoul Dynasty, London Spitfire, Dallas Fuel, and the New York Excelsior. These 4 teams seem to stand out from the rest. The Excelsior are a bit of a weird one, but Seoul Dynasty are by far the biggest team in the competition at the moment, because they're made up of Lunatic High and a few other additions. Lunatic High dominated Korean Overwatch esports. So, they are one of the favourites. Now, I have seen power rankings across the internet, which most of the power rankings will say Seoul Dynasty should win it. But I have seen a few also pipping London Spitfire to win it. But to be quite honest, you could order any 4 of them. On their day, they can beat either one of each other. So then you've got the following pack, shall we say. Some people that may be trying to vie for one of those playoff places. Those would be comprised of your Houston Outlaws, your San Francisco Shock, your Philadelphia Fusions, and your 2 LA teams, the Gladiators and the Valiant. I would say that currently Boston Uprising, Florida Mayhem, and Shanghai Dragons are lagging behind a slight bit. Florida Mayhem only have 6 players. They're a very predictable team, and I would expect them to perhaps fall off nearer the end of the season, but again, we don't know. It's the first season of Overwatch League, and it's very, very... we're going into very unknown territory, shall we say. So that's the teams. You got players in the league which include IDDQD, Sinatra, XQC, Seagull. There are tons of players. Mickey. You've also got Rascal for London Spitfire. Birdring, regarded as one of the best tracers in the world playing for London Spitfire. There are a lot of players in the Overwatch League that you want to be watching. They're fantastic players, believe me, I've watched the pre-season. So, now we move on to how the season will pan out and what happens during the season. So, if you're watching this, you're probably aware or maybe slightly aware, that the Overwatch League starts on Thursday the 11th of January. And there will be 4 games that day, then 2 games on the Friday, and then a load of games on the Saturday. And this will happen for 5 weeks. We will then get a week 6, where there will be 2 title matches for that stage, where the 2 top teams in each division take each other on for some prize money and to be crowned winner of that stage. Now there are 2 divisions in Overwatch League currently. These divisions are divided up into the Atlantic Division and the Pacific Division. The Atlantic Division is comprised of the Boston Uprising, Florida Mayhem, Houston Outlaws, London Spitfire, the New York Excelsior, and Philadelphia Fusion. The Pacific Division is made up of Dallas Fuel, Los Angeles Gladiators, yes, I got that right eventually, Los Angeles Valiant, San Francisco Shock, Seoul Dynasty, and Shanghai Dragons. You would if you go via power rankings, you would expect the finals of the stages to be Dallas Fuel versus Seoul Dynasty, and London Spitfire versus New York Excelsior, but you don't know, you can't tell. So, that would be stage 1. There will be 4 stages take place over the period up until June the 17th, when you will have the stage 4 title matches. Then go into playoffs. Playoffs are where the top seeded teams from each division will go against each other in playoffs to get knocked out, and then you get the grand finals, where the prize money is $1 million for the winner. And then after that, in the second week of August, you get an all-star weekend where basically you know who the winners are, and it's time to cool off and play some fun and games, where some of the players from the Overwatch League season will go up against some challenges. So that's how it's gonna work. Games will be played on a Thursday, Friday and Saturday up until June, until then, and then you will get playoffs, grand finals, and then an all-star weekend. And this will run until about the 13th of August. That is when officially this first season of the Overwatch League will end. As you may have heard me mention during this video, there has been a pre-season for Overwatch already. These games took place on December the 7th, 8th and 9th, where teams were pitted against each other just to warm up for the season and just for a taste of what you're going to get in the Overwatch League when it starts on January the 11th. So, it was a bit weird because the teams were matched together when they perhaps won't be because of the divisional aspect of the league. But, for example, LA Gladiators played London Spitfire. They're not in the same league. So, that kind of sorts that sort of thing out. But, we got a lot of games that day. Unfortunately, Philadelphia Fusion couldn't play because they had player logistic problems. But apart from that, we got to see everyone else play. The results were as follows. Florida Mayhem lost 3-1 to San Francisco Shock. Los Angeles Valiant won 3-2 against San Francisco Shock. Seoul Dynasty beat Shanghai Dragons 4-0. Los Angeles Gladiators beat London Spitfire 3-2. On to Friday. Dallas Fuel beat Houston Outlaws 3-2. New York Excelsior beat Boston Uprising 3-1. Saturday's fixtures. San Francisco Shock lost to London Spitfire 4-0. Seoul Dynasty beat Houston Outlaws 2-1. Shanghai Dragons lost to Boston Uprising 3-2. Los Angeles Valiant beat Los Angeles Gladiators 3-1. Florida Mayhem lost to Dallas Fuel 3-1. And the Seoul Dynasty beat the New York Excelsior 3-1. So, that was the results in pre-season. There are some, what you might call, according to the power rankings, erroneous results there. One that would stand out would be the fact that the LA LA Gladiators beat the London Spitfire. It's very weird. That was a weird match. I remember watching it. But as you can see, 2 days later, London Spitfire tore apart San Francisco Shock. Which is more of what you would expect from Spitfire, considering they have 12 members, all Korean winners. So they are a very, very strong team, the Spitfire. And also another interesting one is Seoul Dynasty beating New York Excelsior 3-1. They won't be in the same division. Excelsior will be up against the Spitfire. But it's a very interesting result because I thought that would be closer and it wasn't. So, we now move on to the first week of games. Now, the first week of games are as follows. Thursday the January 11th at 12 AM GMT. All these times will be in GMT. I don't know what the conversions are exactly, but I'm sure if you go onto the Overwatch League website, you go onto the schedules, you will find the times in your local time zones. And it's extremely helpful that they've done that. But anyway, 12 AM, so basically midnight GMT, it's San Francisco Shock versus the Los Angeles Valiant. 2 AM GMT, Shanghai Dragons versus the Los Angeles Gladiators. 4 AM GMT, Dallas Fuel versus the Seoul Dynasty. That's a match to watch. 10 PM GMT, London Spitfire kick off against the Florida Mayhem. Friday, January the 12th, we see at midnight GMT, 12 AM, Philadelphia Fusion will play their first ever game in the Overwatch League against the Houston Outlaws. And at 2 AM, you will see the Boston Uprising take on the New York Excelsior. And on Saturday, we have a plethora of games, 6 games going on. At midnight, 12 AM, Los Angeles Valiant take on the Dallas Fuel. That could also be an interesting game. Florida Mayhem will take on the Boston Uprising. Another interesting game at 2 AM. 4 AM, San Francisco Shock take on the Shanghai Dragons. 7 PM GMT, London Spitfire take on the Philadelphia Fusion. 9 PM GMT, New York Excelsior will take on the Houston Outlaws. And Seoul Dynasty will take on the Los Angeles Gladiators at 11 PM. And that will be the end of that week's fixtures. Now, there are some games here that really stand out to me. One is the Dallas Fuel versus Seoul Dynasty game. That is going to be a hell of a game. 2 favourites of that side of that division going up against each other on the very first day of the Overwatch League. It's going to be a cracker. Another one to watch out for is Philadelphia Fusion's first game against the Houston Outlaws. That could be an interesting game because Philadelphia are at a pretty unknown quantity at the moment because they didn't take part in the pre-season. Also, we have some interesting games. Los Angeles Valiant versus Dallas Fuel. Fuel should come out on top, but you never know. And I think Valiant could cause an upset there if they play how they can play. And that's about it for that sort of time. And that will be that week. Also, there can be some shocks on these maps because once the Overwatch League starts, it will lock in a selection of maps that will be used for the whole season. Any new maps coming out, like I believe Blizzard World, I don't think that will probably be used in the Overwatch League. Not this season, because I think it would have come out too early. But one map that can cause some real upsets, and we saw this in the pre-season, London Spitfire losing and Dallas Fuel losing on Junkertown. Junkertown can throw out some really erroneous results, so it is worth taking a look at. Also, when San Francisco Shock and the Los Angeles Valiant kick off the Overwatch League, this could be an interesting game because Shock are down 2 players. Super and Sinatra are ineligible for the Overwatch League currently. They are signed to San Francisco Shock, but they are underage. You have to be 18 or over to play in the Overwatch League, and they are not of age yet where they can take part. They will take part later in the season, but it's going to be interesting to see if Shock can put up some sort of push for the playoff places or keep themselves around qualification for their playoff places so that when Sinatra and Super come in, they have that dynamic where they can actually push proper for a playoff place and see if they can upset the apple cart. with what might go on in the league. So that does it for this week's Overwatch League Roundup. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff going out with the Overwatch League. There is merch available on Blizzard's Gear Store. There will also be skins available in the regular Overwatch game at some point. I don't know when that is, that might already have happened, but I'm not recording this on the day it goes out, so I don't know. But we should get some clarification by now, or when the league actually starts on the 11th. This video will come out every single Sunday to give you the results of the Overwatch League and the fixtures coming up at the next week. And I will put the fixtures at the end of the video every single time so you know what's going on, who's playing and when they're playing, GMT times. But thank you for joining this first ever Overwatch League Roundup video. These will come out every Sunday as I said, and I will see you next Sunday. See you then.